Assalamu alaikum. If I can get you guys to come closer, please. And for the brothers in the back praying on the left side, when you're finished, if you can move over to the right side, please. And then we invite the sisters to come as well. Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So if I may suggest, but it is up to you inshallah, try to make like a circle or be close to each other to feel more harmony, to feel more family inshallah. I mean, if you need to support your back, you're more than welcome inshallah, just do it. But if you're just fine with anything, let's just be close. And if you like to use chairs because of a knee problem like me, please do it. You're more than welcome. طيب سبحان بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So the title of this is 3 qualities to grant you or to give you the sweetness of Iman. And it's coming from a hadith that was reported in both Sahih al-Bukhari and in Sahih Muslim. Allah yazzik khair. Barakallah fikum. The hadith says, ثلاث من كن فيه وجد بهن أو وجد فيهن حلاوة الإيمان. 3 qualities, whoever possess them, then will find the sweetness of Iman. And then, so I'll go through the hadith very quick, and then we'll go statement by statement. Isa said, ثلاث من كن فيه وجد بهن أو فيهن حلاوة الإيمان أن يكون الله ورسوله أحب إليه مما سواهما. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger are more beloved to the person than anything else. وأن يحب الرجل لا يحبه إلا لله. And that when a person loves another, the love is exclusively for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وأن يكره أن يعود إلى الكفر بعد إذ أنقذه الله منه كما يكره أن يقذف في النار. And when the person hates to go back to the jahiliyyah, to go back to kufr, to go back to the bad acts or the sins or anything that brings the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كما يكره أن يقذف في النار. The same way that the person hates to be thrown in the hellfire. Okay, so let's get back inshallah to the beginning of the hadith. The beginning says ثلاث من كن فيه وجد فيهن حلاوة الإيمان. Those 3 qualities that He ﷺ has talked about, when someone possesses them, will find the sweetness of Iman. Now, let's just make an analogy. When a person is sick, how much is and severely sick, what do you think about the person's appetite to food? Even if the food was nice and cooked well, right? There's no appetite, right? And even if they taste the food, they probably may not like it, right? Similarly, subhanAllah, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is giving that analogy. This is actually what we call in Arabic isti'ara. Isti'ara is you make an analogy, you make some similarity between 2 cases, and you just mention one of them, you don't mention the other. Or you mention something that tells you what He ﷺ wanted. So for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. You know this ayah? This ayah describes how fast the white hair grow. And the word that was used was اشتعل. You know what اشتعل means? To go in fire. Huh? How fire spreads very fast. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. As if the white hair is acting like a fire and spreading everywhere in your head. But Allah didn't say fire. Allah didn't say this is an analogy. It was just a word that gives you that background analogy, right? So exactly it's the same here. Rasul is telling us that there are things, unless you have them, there's no way you can taste the sweetness of Iman. So what that means is that Iman itself is like a food, is like a drink. It has a taste. And if the person is sick, just like how the sick person cannot taste the food very well, the one who has a sick heart cannot taste the sweetness of this Iman. And that is very important to realize that, many people say, Ya akhi, I do my prayers, I do righteous good deed, I fast, I come to the congregation, I never felt it in my heart. Well, because you're still sick. You have something that you need to work on. There's some prerequisite. And that's where this hadith comes very handy. And he ﷺ had very similar hadith on things you cannot achieve them until you get some prerequisites. So what did he ﷺ say? The first thing and the foremost, he said, أن يكون الله ورسوله أحب إليه مما سواهما. When Allah and His Messenger are more beloved to the person than anything else in this whole world, in this whole universe. And subhanAllah, if you think more deep about it, what makes a heart sick? What is it? Isn't it that they are attached to something in this worldly life? Like when a person is so much attached to money and then they lose in their trade, or they lose their business, or they lose their jobs, what happens to them? Depression. They go into, well, depression is just one thing, but there are multiple other things that people may go through, right? And then they become sick, they become lonely, they separate, they segregate themselves from others. They may not even join any congregation. If people are laughing, he's like, why would I laugh when I lost my job? But similarly here, people who have lost, who are attached to anything in this world, anything in this world is going to vanish. Anything in this world is going to have an end. So if you attach yourself to anything in this world, it's just going to have an end, and you will feel so sad about it. But the thing that really does not go away is when you link your happiness through your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the teachings that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught you. And that's where when he sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, what did Umar say? He took the sword and he said, Wallahi, if anyone tells me that Muhammad has passed away, I will chop off his head. He did not. He just went to his Lord, just like how Musa went to talk to his Lord. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu asked him to step away, and he said, whoever worship Muhammad has passed away. Whoever worship Allah, Allah is there and would never pass away. And he then recited this ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِ الرُّسُلِ أَفَإِن مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. That Muhammad is nothing but a messenger, a prophet and messenger, just like those who came before. So if this messenger is going to pass away, are you going to turn your back? And subhanAllah, here is where this love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reshaped in the hearts of the Sahaba themselves. That's when Umar said, Wallahi, I memorized this ayah, but I never thought about it this way. And now the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stronger in my heart than anything else. And that's what supported them. That's what made them the strong men after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There hasn't been in the history of mankind a moment that was more sad than that moment when he ﷺ passed away. You know that, right? I think everyone should believe in this. I know other sects, they say when Al-Hussein was killed, and others would say when Jesus was killed. Oh, Jesus was not killed, of course, but I mean, people have different way of thinking. For us as true Muslims, The most sad moment was when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ passed away, for two reasons. One, because he's the dearest one to our heart, and through him we learned how to worship Allah. But the most important thing is because with his death, revelation has stopped, right? Aisha radiallahu anha was crying, and they told her, be patient. She said, I'm crying because Jibreel is no more revealing, is no more coming with revelation. But despite that fact, subhanAllah, when people are connected to the very reason that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came to guide us to, then that is when our hearts are always happy and cheerful. Because what really matters to you, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most beloved thing to you, is when you anger Allah, right? When you do something that brings the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you're not doing this, if you are following what Allah wants, if you are following Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if your life is fully devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tell me anything that make you sad. Losing a friend, losing mother, losing father, losing kids. Yes, it may sadden you, just like how it saddened Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But you know what? You believe that you will have those in Jannah for eternity life, and that for you is much better than having them in this dunya. Isn't that true? Similarly, you lose job, you know that Allah is a Razzaq, and you know that you will never die until you get all your provision. Isn't that true? Why would you even be sad? But that is only if Allah is truly the most beloved thing to your heart. And of course, loving Prophet Muhammad ﷺ comes from that perspective, meaning that when you love Prophet Muhammad ﷺ because you love your Lord. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in all the entire Quran and told us to obey him and to follow him and to love him. So just like how Allah said in Surah Ali Imran, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمْ اللَّهِ. Say, O Muhammad, tell people, if you truly love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then follow me, because that what makes Allah love you. So Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us, unless Allah and His Messenger are the most beloved ones to your heart, you're not gonna taste that sweetness of Iman. And I tell you, wallahi, subhanAllah, I mean, maybe in today's time it's very difficult to find those people, but in the older time, you would find some very devoted Muslims that when you see them, you feel, subhanAllah, that your heart is so connected to Allah, and as if you are seeing someone from Sahaba time. There was one sheikh by the age of 85 or close to 90, and that was when I was 21 years old. So he was invited to a house, and he was talking to some of the people in the house, and they asked him, could you tell us anything that you have learned in this life? So he was trying to summarize his experience for over 85 years. One of the statements he said, I swear by Allah, there wasn't any time in my whole life that I did kabira. Not a single time. And there wasn't any time in my whole life that I was staring at a haram thing. Of course, this was in Riyadh, and at that point in time, the haram is not very common, not even through media, but still, I mean, someone who has protected his eyes, all of his parts from any haram, how much of sweetness and love that these people have towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And wallahi, among the statements that I have learned from our scholars was, and this is a sheikh, a big scholar in Islam, his name is Abdurrahman al-Bani, a Syrian scholar. My father named me after this scholar. He said a statement, and he passed away about 93 years old, and up until that day of his death, He was able to walk and talk and do things on his own. His sight, mashallah, was perfect. His sight, hearing, everything was great. So he was once asked, what is it that made you maintain all these parts in a shape that even people in the 50s are losing them? And the statement was, تلك جوارحنا حفظناها في الصغر فحفظها الله لنا في الكبر. Those parts, we have protected them from haram when we were young, and Allah is protecting them in our old age. So when Allah becomes truly the most beloved one to you, then that would make you refrain from satisfying your desires at times when your desires go against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you. And that actually what saves you and protects you and make your heart really truly healthy and willing to receive and taste that sweetness of the religion, of Iman in particular. One important thing that the ulama have said about loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through learning who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, through learning about His names, His attributes, so what we call it Asma al-Sifat. People always talk about Asma al-Sifat as the 99 names, right? Well, the Rasul has said in the authentic hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 99 names. Whoever memorize them and act upon them will be in Jannah. But that hadith, although it is authentic, it doesn't say that those are the only names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has more than that. And the evidence of this is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, there's a hadith in which Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, أسألك اللهم بكل اسم هو لك سميت به نفسك أو أنزلته في كتابك أو علمته أحدا من خلقك أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك. That oh Allah, I ask you by all your names, even those names that you have kept to yourself and didn't tell or teach any one of your creatures or creations. So we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has more than those 99 names, but the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was talking specifically about 99 names for which if someone memorized them and act upon them, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place them in Jannah. Now, and I want to just give one example, and hopefully later we can talk more about those names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I just want to give you a simple thing. You know this word Ar-Rahman? You know what Ar-Rahman means? What is it? There's no equivalent in English, by the way. Even if you tell me the most beneficent, the most merciful, any of those are not really equal translation. Ar-Rahman has this attribute of being merciful, right? Rahma, Rahim. But Rahman is an attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that means that regardless of what people do, regardless of how severely bad they were in this life, Allah would still show His mercy. And you see that in the Quran, when does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the word Ar-Rahman? Yes, it is in Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, of course. But you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا, not Rahman. So where do you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses Ar-Rahman in the Quran? For Surah Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman علم القرآن خلق الإنسان, in which is? Do you remember any? Type, no problem. Let's just take one. وخشعت الأصوات للرحمن فلا تسمع إلا همسا. This talks about the day of judgment, when all human will be just silent. All human means, it includes what? Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, Fir'aun, everyone, right? And then وَخَشَعَتِ الْأَصْوَاتِ, so they all become silent to whom? Ar-Rahman. And Ar-Rahman is that mercy that Allah will show to every human, to everyone regardless of how bad they are. And if Ar-Rahman was not his attribute, Allah would have put people, would have destroyed people even before they do their sins. Because the minute a person thinks about committing a sin, it is an insult to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Like the minute someone thinks that he can hide from Allah and do a sin, it's as if, subhanAllah, a person is not believing in Allah's power and in Allah's majesty, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is just one word that, subhanAllah, when a person who commits a lot of sins and remembers that Allah is Rahman, it just brings you hope in this life. I mean, most of the people who commit a lot of sins, they give up. And when they give up, you know what they do? They just continue in their haram. They continue in their sins. Because khalas, they say, okay, I already ruined my hereafter. So they will get more engaged in haram after haram after haram, until it's like impossible to go back. But every time you remember Allah is the Rahman, it just brings that hope in your heart. That regardless of what you do, even if you were like the Pharaoh, there is still hope in Allah's Rahmah. So let's go to the next one. وَأَنْ يُحِبَّ الرَّجُلِ لَا يُحِبُّهُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. And that you love the person, any person, for no reason except for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the first one was a relationship between us and Allah. And of course His messenger, because of the religion that the messenger came with. Now the second one is where the relationship between humans. So Allah, Rasul says, أن يكون الرجل أحب إليه وأن يحب الرجل لا يحبه إلا لله. That nothing connects you to another person except the love for the sake of Allah. And let's face the reality. What makes people cluster after prayer? What is it? Sometimes it's like they work in the same business. They probably have someone needs to talk to need to get some service from another, or maybe they speak the same language, or they came from the same city, or they are relatives, or someone is inviting him to a place and returning another invitation that has happened in the past. Usually that's what it is, right? And that's why, maybe I didn't see it very much here, but in other places, you would see, for example, Syrians together, Sudanese together, African American together, white American together. I mean, and you name it, subhanAllah. And people cluster based on certain things: ethnicity, color, language, dialect, whatever it is, or even sometimes social status, right? But that, subhanAllah, was not the case in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I can give you this example of Bilal radiallahu anhu arda. Bilal was not only an African low status, he was a slave. He was a slave. They used to beat him day and night. Bilal radiallahu anhu arda was a slave. You know, Bilal radiallahu anhu, anyone remembers who freed Bilal? Abu Bakr. Inshallah, maybe I can talk about it after Isha in a bit of more depth. Abu Bakr was the one who freed him. Do you know who was his master before that? Umayyah ibn Khalaf. Umayyah ibn Khalaf was his master. After the conquest of Mecca, you know what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did to Bilal? What? Allahu Akbar. MashaAllah alayk. What's your name, Habibi? MashaAllah. Allahu Akbar, Habibi. Allah yarda alayk. MashaAllah. May Allah bless your heart, Habibi. He asked him to go to the top of Kaaba and make adhan. And no one was able to do this, not even Abu Bakr. Not even Abu Bakr. And subhanAllah, and one day, after after Abu Bakr intervened to free Bilal, and then Bilal migrated to Medina with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Bilal was counseling Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or at least giving him some suggestions. Abu Dharr was one of the big Sahaba, and he made an opinion, and Bilal said a different opinion. Now those Arabs in Jahiliyyah, they will not let someone like, what, you are a slave? You are a slave, how would you dare to say something different than what I say? So Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu arda, at that moment probably he just did that mistake. He was a great Sahabi radiallahu anhu arda. So he said to Bilal, Yabna Sawda, the son of the black woman or black mother. So this reached to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Abu Dharr, he said, "A'ayyartahu bi ummih." Are you mocking at him because of his mother? Abu Dharr felt how bad it was. You know what he did? He put his face on the ground and he said, "Wallahi, I will not take it up until you come and you hit my face with your foot. And you place your foot on my face so that people will see how bad I am. That your foot as an African, as a slave, as a black, as whatever, is more honored than my face itself." So the relationship that then was established between those Sahaba was truly that. And that was the thing that made Sahaba the Sahaba. You know, in the centuries that came afterwards, people were separated. People had different fiqh madhab, different languages, different whatever, and they were not so much together. Was that not the case in the time of Sahaba? It was. Sahaba themselves did not agree on the fiqh madhab. Did you know that? Like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu and Abdullah ibn Umar were two different fiqh school of thought. Very different. Very different. Similarly, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, each one has his own school of thought. And he has seen or saw in his time that the Sahaba were disagreeing on fiqh. Sometimes he corrected them, some other times he just left them. And he agreed or he let it go without even telling them who was right. Because he wanted them to know that you may differ in your fiqh, but your hearts are following the same path. One of the things I would love to do here, inshallah, is to go through the true life, not the fiqh. I mean, we can always talk about fiqh, but one of the things that we probably don't know about our four imams is how much they were in love with each other and how much they were one ummah, something that we probably never thought about. And I hope, inshallah, Allah will give us life and talk about them. But the thing is, subhanAllah, you can see just one example. Imam al-Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, two different schools of thought. Two totally different. One day, Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad was a student of Imam al-Shafi'i, although later he has his own school of thought. So one day after Ahmad ibn Hanbal became so old, he heard his son asking him, Abdullah. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, by the way, had two sons. Abdullah and Salih. You know what Abdullah was famous of and what Salih was famous of? Huh? One was the mother, another was the no, Abdullah was muhaddith and Salih was faqih. One in hadith and one in fiqh. Yeah. The one who completed al-Musnad was Abdullah. And Salih was the faqih. So Abdullah radiallahu anhu has asked his father. He said, who was al-Shafi? For wallahi, for the past 20 years, I always hear you praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him after each prayer. So who was this? And Ahmad bin Hanbal said, لَقَدْ كَانَ الشَّافِعِي كَالشَّمْسِ لِلدُّنْيَا وَكَالْعَافِيَةِ لِلْبَدَنِ فَهَلْ تَرَى لِهَذَيْنِ مِنْ بُدٍّ. He said that Shafi'i was like the sun for this universe, for the planet Earth, and was like health for every human body. Do you think someone can live without those? So that was what Ahmad bin Hanbal said about Shafi'i, although if you see the differences between the scholars of Shafi'i and Hanbali, it's huge. It's huge. One day, but this happened later, much later, there was a group of Shafi'i students who were, in a session, and then their sheikh was saying that Ahmad bin Hanbal was not faqih, he was only muhaddith. And then Hanbali students went to his house and they threw stones until they buried his house with the stones. So he would never be able to use his house. So it all became like this. In one of the real incidents, this is not a joke, there was a sheikh, Hanafi alim, scholar, who was asked, is it permissible for a Shafi'i man to get married to a Hanafi woman? And he said, no, it's not. But then you know what he said afterwards? He said, no, I changed my mind, it's permissible. And it is because a Muslim can get married to Jews and Christians. You see the point? You see how they, but here's what Rasul said, وَأَنْ يُحِبَّ الرَّجُلْ لَا يُحِبُّهُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. That what really brings us together is the love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that what made those four imams to be one family. In reality, like they were truly one family. Imam al-Shafi'i used to say, الناس عيال في الفقه على أبي حنيفة. That anyone who has even a little bit of fiqh or a mountain of fiqh in their mind, they will be just students and they will be benefiting and leveraging the khair and the barakah and the true knowledge that Abu Hanifa managed to bring to humanity. Now, who said the statement? Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. So that was the thing that really brought people together. And here is the thing: if you are able to straighten and correct your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and at the same time you correct your relationship with people, then that's it. Then your heart becomes healthy. And that's when your heart really is able to taste the sweetness of Iman. That's when you hear someone, and I want to be very clear about this. Why would people sometimes reject the truth? Because the truth didn't come from people who they love, right? Or they respect. So let's say I have a sheikh, you have a sheikh, and I'm telling you the opinion of my sheikh, you're telling me the opinion of your sheikh. I would say, this is not true, and you will say the same, right? But when I respect your sheikh regardless of the differences, and you respect my sheikh regardless of the differences, then at least we can come to a common ground, which is, at least there might be a difference of opinion in the masala, and we still need to respect each other. But the same thing applies in every other aspect, not only in fiqh differences. And that's why, subhanAllah, Rasul has said about a person who traveled from a city to another to visit a brother for the sake of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded an angel to go and stop him, to be on the shape of a human and stop this man and ask him, what made you travel from your city to another? He said, to visit someone fi sabilillah. He said, I ask you by Allah, is it only for the sake of Allah, or is there anything else that you want to get out of it? Any business, anything you want to complete? And he said, Wallahi, it is for Allah. And he said, I am a messenger from Allah to tell you that Allah loves you as you love that person. And that's why, subhanAllah, it is the sunnah that when you love a person fi sabilillah, that you should tell him. You should tell him, I love you for the sake of Allah. And the response should be, أحبك الله الذي أحببتني فيه. May Allah, the one who you love me for, love you as well. Now let's go to the third one. وأن يكره أن يعود إلى الكفر بعد إذ أنقذه الله منه كما يكره أن يقذف في النار. And for the person to hate to go back to jahiliyyah, to go back to kufr, to go back to sins, the same way the person hates to be thrown in the fire. And I want you to just think about this very closely. Think about any sin that you are used to see. Perhaps when you go to your social media, I'm sure anyone who has Facebook or Instagram or what are the names? You name the things, huh? Yeah, TikTok. Oh, TikTok, the worst of the worst. Anyone who has those, when you launch them, when you launch the application, you, regardless whether you like it or not, you will see something haram. Is that true? Isn't that true? Anyone tells me otherwise? Because if you tell me otherwise, I can prove you this is not true. But I'm security and privacy person, so this is my world. This is my entire PhD about. So you just cannot escape from this. You cannot. The problem here is that what does it really make you feel when you have to go through such a haram thing in order to just watch something that perhaps is not even relevant? Someone sends you a link on WhatsApp, on TikTok, you just click on it, and then once you see that video, the next video that comes, which actually they show you a preview so that you keep going through them, it would have something haram, or it has some music, or whatever it is. Would you think, or would you come to a point where you say, okay, I'm not going to open that because I'm afraid that it may bring some haram, even for a blink of an eye? Would you do this? I mean, I can tell you about myself, it doesn't happen. And the reason for this is because we got used to it. We just see it over and over and over and over until it becomes nothing. Nothing. I mean, if someone tells me this, oh, it's nothing. I still remember when I was at college, there was no internet. In my last year of college, the very first thing that we got was Hotmail. Do you remember Hotmail in the old days? Huh? I think it's still there, right? I have a Hotmail account. I forgot its password, so I don't know what happened to it. So in that Hotmail, they were among the very first people to bring you advertisement. So one of my friends started Hotmail, and he told me my father was so angry at me when he came to my room, opened the door, and I was opening Hotmail, and on the advertisement, on the sidebar, there was a photo of someone on the beach. And you know what that means. And his father was like, my son, after all those 18 years of, 28 years of teaching and growing you Islamically, next to the mashayikh, next to the ulama, and that's what you watch? And he was like, wallahi, when I first saw this, it was haram in my mind, but because every time I have to open my email, I am no more able to notice it. I still remember when I first came to the US in 1997, I used to tell my wife, if we go to the market and there's some music, we need to really hurry up so that we get our items and just get out so that we don't really hear the music too much, and it may, la samhallah, grow in our hearts. But now I go to the same place. I don't know if there was music or there wasn't, because it just became something that we see it all the days. So here's the thing. Rasul ﷺ says, وَأَنْ يَكْرَهَ أَنْ يَعُودَ إِلَى الْكُفْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ أَنْقَذَهُ اللَّهُ مِنْ كَمَا يَكْرَهُ أَنْ يُقْذَفَ فِي النَّارِ. That the person will be so sensitive to anything that brings them back to haram after Allah saved them, the same way that they hate or they refrain from being thrown in the fire. So if when Iman becomes so part of your heart, then you become very sensitive to anything that displeases Allah, even if you see it over and over and over and over. There's a hadith, although the sanad or the chain may have some questionability about it, but the matan is authentic. The hadith says, إن أول ما دخل النقص على بني إسرائيل أنه إذا رأى الرجل أخاه على ذنب أمره ونهاه ثم لا يمنعه ذلك أن يكون أكيله وشريبه وجليسه. He said that the very first chance that degradation in Iman in the hearts of the children of Israel has happened when they were seeing munkarat or seeing bad deeds or wrong things happening, and they would say, please stop this, don't do that. But that will not prevent them from sharing food with the sinners at the time when they commit their sins. That will not prevent them from sitting with, chatting and having fun time with those sinners at the time when they commit their sins. That's how Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said, whoever sees from you a sin or a bad deed, let that person try to change it by the hand. If not, then by the tongue. If not, then at least by the heart. You know how you change a sin by heart? Do you know how? Tell me. How do you change? Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وليس بعد ذلك من الإيمان حبة خردل. So how could you change a sin by your heart? You cannot. So what did he mean, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Anyone can help me? Huh? What did you say? Karah, exactly. When you feel you don't like it, then that is when you truly are changing it. And I give you example. So let's say that you go to a restaurant and they have 5-star review, very delicious food. But they happen to have something that they cooked and it didn't work well, so a very stinkt smell. Very bad smell. Are you going to stay? Even if they are offering you the best of food, would you stay? Very stinkt smell that will ruin your whole stay. You will not even be able to taste the nicest food because of that bad smell. You will not, right? Because you say, why would I even put my money here when I can go to somewhere else that they don't have that, right? Right? Okay. So what if you go to that same restaurant with very beautiful smell, very beautiful food, but there are people who are drinking wine in front of you? What do you think? What do you think? If you are changing the munkar by your heart, the pain and the feeling that you have in your heart against seeing people consuming alcohol should be much more impacting you and your presence in that place than just having a distinct smell. You see the point? And that's why Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said, وَلَيْسَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ حَبَّةُ خَرْدَلٍ. That if you don't have that feeling, that you just don't want to be in a place where Allah is being disobeyed. If you don't have that feeling, then there's no iman in your heart. So do we really change things with our heart? And by the way, we are so peaceful. We're not doing any violence, we're not being disrespectful to anyone. It's just your choice. Either you stay here or you go somewhere else. But then, what is the criteria? Is it the delicious food? Is it the nice seating? Or is it the good romance that you see with whatever. No, it's at the moment when I displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it changes my entire body. Because I hate to commit a sin the same way I hate to be thrown in the fire. I hate to go back to jahiliyyah. I hate to go back to kufr the same way I hate to be thrown in the fire. When a person has all these three, then everything in Iman makes perfect sense to them. That's when you taste the sweetness of Iman. That's when you hear the word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it makes your heart beat in a different way. That's when you hear the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you feel it on your skin. You feel it in everything. That's why Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he start engaging in a prayer, he would not like to finish that prayer. That's why he sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say to Bilal, "Arihna bis-salati ya Bilal." Give us comfort, ya Bilal, by calling for the prayer. Whereas in today's time, it's a checkbox. Alhamdulillah, I finished my prayer, now I can do something else. Because prayer was not sweet to our heart. Had it been very sweet, we would not even like to leave it. And that's what, subhanAllah, our pious predecessors have said. One of their statement, Wallahi, إني لا أحمل هم إكمال الصلاة ولكني أحمل هم إذا قربت صلاتي على الانتهاء كيف أفارقها. That I don't get concerned about doing my prayers. My concern is that while I am in my prayer, how could I leave my prayer? Like I'm in such an enjoyable time that I just don't want this prayer to finish. And that's exactly what sweetness of Iman means. So let me stop here, inshallah, and let's do with some questions, inshallah, and answers. How much time do we have until Isha? 15 minutes? Okay, great. So let's 1:5. Yeah. So let's go questions, inshallah. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
The third one. What exactly the wording is?
وأن يكره أن يعود في الكفر بعد إذ أنقذه الله منه كما يكره أن يقذف في النار. بارك الله.
The word for anna, does it refer to hellfire or does it refer to any fire of this dunya which has its effect on its body, meaning your hands are burned, your body is burned, you don't feel comfortable with it. So with the same karahiyya of you feeling the physical pain from physical fire in this dunya, you feel the same spiritual pain in your heart when you return back to sin.
Yeah. I did not hear from our scholars either way, but my understanding is the fire that we know in this dunya. Wallahu a'lam. But I did not hear that directly from our scholars, so just to be honest.
It's fire of this dunya.
In this dunya, yeah. Because that's what you can measure. Yeah. Barakallah feek.
If the heart get bad disease, do you have a spiritual heart bypass? How do you do that?
I love you. I love you, Habibi. Come to Masjid AlSalam. We'll open a clinic here, inshallah. Open heart surgery. Astaghfirullah. Ay wallah. Yes, exactly. 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 Yeah, but here's the thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُم بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ القُلُوبُ. When their hearts get their comfort through hearing the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the sign of Iman. This is a sign of Iman. But here's one thing, very important thing. We cannot dismiss the fact that there are people who go through physical depression. We need to understand this. There are multiple ahadith in the Sahih. There's one in Sahih Muslim that talks about a Sahabi who commits suicide. Inshallah, one day I will talk about it. And Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam acknowledged that. I mean, even Sahaba have gone through physical like psychological impact or mental issues in their life, despite the fact they were the best of the people. So we should not really treat every depression that people are away from Allah. They probably may be the closest to Allah, but Allah is also still testing them through some of those issues. Yeah. Other questions, inshallah?
No, Sheikh, I have a question, like how to reach to this level of these three signs, yani how to get our iman and our faith muscle exercised, especially that it goes ups and downs.
Yeah, I think, and Jazakallah khair, this is a life journey, right? And the Sahaba did not just become immediately the great Sahaba that they were, although they have changed a lot. Like Umar ibn Khattab, it changed 180 degree when he became Muslim. He was coming to kill Rasulullah ﷺ or assassinate him, and immediately he said, if anyone wants to approach him or attack him, let him face me first. So, but still it went through tarbiyah, it went through tazkiyah, it went through a long process of treating the heart, treating the mind with the words of Allah and the words of His Messenger ﷺ. And frankly, that's where we always see that Islamic knowledge is not just science. It's not just science. Islamic knowledge should come with tazkiyah and tarbiyah. And that's why we differentiate between just a scholar who has the knowledge and what we call him alim, and the scholar who actually comes with the practice, and we call that alim rabbani. Alim rabbani, al-ulama al-rabbaniyin are those who bring knowledge with practice. They link between that knowledge that you learn and then your practice in life and how you can implement it. And I hope that inshallah with us realizing that the love of each another for the sake of Allah only, it brings people to get into this, because every one of them who learns something good, he would love that this goodness will go to all the people around him that he loves them. So if someone joins this group of people who love each another, then those people will only go higher in their faith. And that actually is one of the secrets, or some of the keys for a person to have this life and to have this love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is where you surround yourself with people who always bring you back on track. Allah yazikum khair.
Any other question, inshallah?
If you don't, I will ask you.
Yes.
And you don't like that? You do? I can ask.
So if you want, inshallah, to make dua, concluding dua, inshallah.
Any other last question, inshallah, sisters, if you have anything? Huh? Where's Blake? Where are you, Blake? Okay. MashaAllah. Okay. طيب خير inshallah. So next Friday, I will talk about another hadith in which Rasul ﷺ has said, أربع إذا كنا فيك فلا عليك ما فاتك من الدنيا. 4 qualities, if you possess them, then don't worry about anything that you lost in this dunya. So inshallah, stay with us. Be here inshallah next Friday. Jazakumullah khair.
This time it is 3 qualities, if not it's 4 qualities, after that will be...
Yes, حق المسلم على المسلم 5. Inshallah.
So I missed the first and second.
Yeah, you did. Indeed. So okay, let's just finish with dua inshallah. Allahumma صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم يا رحمن يا رحيم يا قيوم السماوات والأرضين اهدنا إلى ما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. اللهم يا رحمن يا رحيم يا قيوم السماوات والأرضين، اجمعنا على طاعتك واجمعنا على محبة نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم يا ربنا اجعلنا ممن تصف بهذه الثلاث خصال. اللهم اجعلنا ممن أحبك وأحب نبيك أكثر مما سواهما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يحب الناس لا يحبهم إلا الله. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يكره أن يقذف أن يعود إلى الكفر كما يكره أن يقذف في النار. اللهم يا ربنا ارزقنا حلاوة الإيمان. اللهم ارزقنا حلاوة الإيمان. اللهم ارزقنا حلاوة الإيمان. اللهم لا تحرمنا هذا الأجر ولا تحرمنا هذا الخير. ارزقنا الإخلاص والقبول وتقبل منا صالح الأعمال. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.